You should put an Easter egg in there, like $100 whoever watches.
That's right. That's right. $100 to anyone who can answer this question at the end. All right. As we dive in, how many? I know Rich is in the rental game. You guys are exploring. You guys are exploring. Are you
Just one.
okay? Okay. So you're in the space. Amy, do you want to chime in on kind of where rentals fit in your world? Are you exploring, or is it something that you're already doing? You're not in a position. Oh,
Sorry,
go
just
ahead.
learning.
Oh, I have you quiet, maybe?
Just learning. Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you.
Is she playing in your car?
Can you hear me now?
That would be me.
No, I don't know why you can't hear me.
Here. Try again, Amy.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, I'm just learning. No
Just
rent
learning.
for me yet.
Perfect, perfect. We are glad you're here. So we all have various frameworks and various perspectives on things. I'd love to know, as you think about analyzing and understanding whether a rental works or not, what's the number one question that you bring into today's conversation? Love to hear from a few of you.
I think of like sustainability. So like not only are we going to be able to get a renter in there, but is it going to continue to be a strong rental market in that particular? So like my question is, is it better to buy a rental property where there's other rentals around? Or is it okay to find a single family home in like a neighborhood? Because in talking to Marcy, she's like, single family homes on the resale market, if you need to sell it, they sell quicker. But then I work with investors as well, and we're looking at 6-8 unit apartment buildings, and they're surrounded with like buildings and duplexes and things like that. So like I guess my question is, just from like a long term, because our strategy is that we're gonna hold on to these properties for an extended period of time. So, what's the sustainability of those properties?
Okay.
That's
We'll definitely touch on that.
Okay.
Other questions or curiosities?
I'm wondering is just how long to hold on to them and know when to cut loose.
Good.
Knowing when to cut loose.
We'll definitely talk about that. Cool.
Nothing comes to mind for me.
Okay. Okay.
I'm super intrigued to see. I'm watching these duplexes and multifamilies fly off the market at prices that I can't imagine paying for them based on the return on investment. So I'm super curious if there is even an explanation as to why people are paying 20, 30, 40, 50 grand or more over what I can come up with for rental numbers. There's not enough meat on the bone if you're making $200 a month and you put $40,000 out. So I'm having a hard time understanding where some of these investors are coming from.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I just had an experience with an 8 unit in Louisville where, you and I were talking about, but like, the rents were so low because this person had owned it for so long, that the bank was worried that even if you did up the rents, like you would have to up them so much to get them where they would need to be, that then you would lose your tenant. Yeah. So like that kind of going along with what Rich is saying, I'm wondering that as well, because banks look at it from one perspective, especially if it's a commercial loan.
For sure. Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through 6 pillars, and some of this will be stuff that you've heard before. Some of it may not be, and it may add a layer. And my hope would be if you can add a framework or add a piece of vocabulary, and then we'll actually analyze a real property. Let's pull one up and let's walk through it and how would we think about it and what works and doesn't work, just to help you guys see how we do it. And I'll talk about how I do it, but you guys all have knowledge and experience. And then I've got a cheat sheet that'll be a tool for you all moving forward, but we'll save that. Save that for the end. So 6 pillars of analysis. And you know what? I'm going to do a screen share for you, Miss Amy, just so you can see what we're looking at. Hopefully you can see that. Cool. Give me a shout if you can't see that, but I believe that you can. All right, so first pillar, and the pillars, this is not so much like what am I looking at a property, but more as I envision myself as a rental property investor, what frameworks and what pillars do I need to think through? So number one, goals and strategy. That goes without saying, but if you're looking to create income for yourself right now, that's going to be a different property and a different strategy than if you're looking to build long-term wealth. Not to say it's an entirely different framework, but if you're just looking for, hey, how do I create cash flow today versus I want to be a multimillionaire later, you're probably going to buy different properties. I add there, are you looking for income or growth? And ideally, everyone's going to say like, yes, I want both of those things.
Yeah.
But income properties, like I know some people who, and just for your frame of reference for me, and I probably shared this with some of you before. So we've sold off a couple. We have 17 tenants as of today, a blend of single family and duplexes. I don't have bigger stuff at this point. And I like small multifamily and single family for various reasons. And I think they counterbalance each other nicely. My personal strategy is I'm looking for properties that pay for themselves and create a little bit of cash flow, but that are more likely to be properties that I'm glad to own in the future and not just creating cash flow today. Meanwhile, I know people who buy strictly for cash flow, and they buy houses that I wouldn't choose to buy in neighborhoods that I wouldn't choose to buy them in, but it accomplishes their goals. Me creating that contrast for you is not me saying this is the right way versus the wrong way, so much as to say, like, if cash flow is your only goal, like you can perhaps wade into neighborhoods that I probably would prefer to wade into. It all depends on what you're looking for.
Well, there are reasons why you don't want to. I mean, the tenants that you get in some neighborhoods too, you're gonna have more, it might have cash flow, but you might be spending all that cash back on that property, so.
Absolutely. I think a good rule of thumb, because it's like, can you bank on cash flow? Can you bank on appreciation? And the answer is like, we don't have a crystal ball and no, but we can work off of kind of historic trends. And so my rule of thumb is I'm not going to buy a property that doesn't cash flow. Like I'm not interested in losing money every month on a property just to own it. Now, there are parts of the country where people do that intentionally, knowing that like I'm in an area that's hot and in a couple of years this is going to be worth 200 grand more than I bought it for today, and therefore I can afford to lose a couple $100 a month just to own this property, because that math works out. Ohio is not a state where you need to be making that decision, and if you're losing money month over month in a rented home, you've bought the wrong property. So it needs to cash flow, but for me, I'm looking more for it to grow over time. I'm not banking on a certain appreciation. Oh, it has to appreciate 5% every year. Ohio is not a high growth market, but we know that buying in certain neighborhoods where, and this is not going to violate fair housing laws here, but like, oh, like you can tell people like living in this neighborhood, there's maybe a pride of ownership in this community.
Yeah.
That's likely to be true in the future. I bought a duplex a couple years ago in Jackson, knowing that it was a safe bet because it was in Jackson. So goals and strategy are big, and connected to that, deal sourcing. And this is a conversation for where we have an unfair advantage, right? People that aren't in the real estate space, they say, well, do I need to get on a wholesaler list? Do I need to, join some mastermind? What agent can I trust in this space? And we have an unfair advantage because we see the inventory the minute it hits the market if we're paying attention to what's going on. And we're talking to sellers that are considering the possibility of selling their home and maybe open to, to selling to you. Gary Keller will say that the first question when we walk into a prospective listing is, does this house make sense for me to buy? Which is a pretty cool framework. Hey, I'm not just a listing agent. I'm a real estate professional and investor, and there's lots of different things that we could do here. Obviously, our fiduciary duty matters in walking in. We're not going to tell someone it's worth 180 when we know it's worth 220 just to get it for a deal.
Sometimes they'll say, I just want 220. I don't care that I can get 180.
Yeah.
I want out of it.
Yep. Yeah.
So-
So it's like, well, let's.
Those are the opportunities.
Yeah, have a conversation.
I had a situation recently where a friend of mine from church went with another agent. Sucks, but it happens. And then she told me like, "Hey, if you have a buyer, let me know. We're going live tomorrow at 1:45." And I was like, I haven't run comps, but this house will sell for 260 all day. You know, I was kind of like trying not to be patronizing.
At 1:45 PM. I was like,
Yeah.
very specific.
$145,000. Yeah.
I was like, what would that matter?
Listing for $145,000. And I was like, I was trying not to be patronizing. And it's like, I'm not your agent, but like, did your agent provide comps that you
Yeah.
felt good with?
Yeah,
I'm surprised that number feels lower than what I would have expected. A lot lower.
yeah,
And then I just took a screen grab of Zillow homes that had sold in the area, just like, hey, just here's a little bit of data for you because I'm concerned for you. And I asked her a second time, 145. And she's like, yeah, we're excited. We wanted to price it competitively. And I'm like, I will buy that
Like,
for 180 for
yeah,
tomorrow.
right,
Like,
right.
and it's like, oh, did I say 145? I meant 245. I'm like, okay, that
Okay,
makes more sense. That might still be a deal, but I'm
No longer.
no longer. Yeah, all that to say. So what neighborhoods are we looking at? And again, this is where we have an unfair advantage in this space. There is in the world of real estate investing, we talk about class A, B, C, and D neighborhoods. You never hear someone talk about a class F neighborhood, but those would be described as war zones, where
yeah,
typically speaking, and there's not like a hard and fast rule for what is class A versus class B versus class C. You kind of know. Class A is these are nice neighborhoods, not just like safe neighborhoods, but A-list style neighborhoods where executive style families are paying very good money to live. It's very difficult to get those to cash flow. Hey, I'm buying a $700,000 house to rent for $5,500 a month. It probably isn't quite going to work out. And I don't think in Ohio there's as much of a market for that. B class is solid, safe, in broad brushstrokes in our communities. Think $200,000 house or maybe 180 to 250, where it's a solid home, quality schools, maybe not the 10 out of 10 schools, but quality schools that a family would happily live in. C class becomes more working class neighborhoods, and they'll do plus and minus. And I would say a lot of my, I own properties in Perry. That might be like a B minus area where mine are. It's not like people, I'm schools are fine on the street that it's on. It's like it's okay. You're not walking down here, am I feeling unsafe? So I think money can often be made from a cash flow and appreciation standpoint in that like the B to C relationship where you're feeling good about it. Income analysis. Anyone, when you look at a potential rental, Melena, I'll put you on the spot. When you guys were looking at your rental, did you analyze it for what you thought it could rent for monthly, or just like, oh, this seems like a good rental?
Well, probably a bad example because it was for my son.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick of covering his rent every time he was late. I'm like, oh, he's moving in. So we bought him this $35,000 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Canton, and when he went overseas, we rented it. So,
Gotcha.
but no, I never even considered at the time being a.
But at 35,000, that should rent pretty well.
Yeah, no cash flow on it.
Cash flow pretty
It's
well.
$950 now.
Oh, yeah.
That's great cash flow.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Perfect, mother, daughter, they're taking such good care of it. So.
That's great. Other, Rich, when you've looked at yours, how you've kind of comped out.
I mean, yeah, I won't say that I'm the most proficient when it comes to it. I know people think I know everything, but I don't. That's right here, and it's like I usually still use the 10% rule. Like if it's $200,000, then I would expect the rent should be around $2,000 a month, at least in my mind, because when I put down 20% on these, yeah, I'm making money because I'm putting 20% down, but really it's not cash flowing that well. I'm really just covering the cost like you're talking about. So that's why I'm intrigued when I say about these people that are paying, let's say, for example, 225 for a unit. And I'm like, how are they doing this? Unless they're just looking at it from the perspective like you are.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about cash flowing right now in this. But that's what I use is that 10% rule. It just seems to be an easy way to do it and it makes sense financially.
Yep.
Maybe it's not the best way, but that's what I do.
Yep. And with regards to determining whether that home will sell for $2,000 a month, is that more like, hey, I just kind of know the area and have a good feel for it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can get on Zillow and look to see what things have rented for,
Yep.
I guess. I don't always do that, but yes, I mean, or you might know a landlord in the area and you call and say, hey, what's this? Or because you're paying attention, you see something for rent, you look up what they're asking for it, and you're like, oh, that seems low or that seems high or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really just doing a little bit of homework and investigation in the area.
Yeah.
That's usually what it comes down to.
One tool, and I don't get paid by this company. One tool that I have used that's been helpful. You can get 5 free reports, and then you have to pay if you want to do more than that. But it's called Rentometer. And so this is where it's pulling rental comps is difficult. Going on MLS to find rental comps like
Liz said she uses this.
yes, I've showed this to Liz before. So what you do here, and so this is actually pulling rental data from rental sites. And
Is this an app?
I don't know if it has an app. It's rentometer.com, but I'll put in one of our rentals. So 1340 Arnold Avenue Northwest. It's down near the Hall of Fame. We rent it low. I know it's low. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath home, and they have what's called a smart radius, which I don't know the logic behind it, but that I've typically found that to be helpful. Yeah, AI. That's always the answer. And so what it'll do, and I know it's going to be way low, is it shows you, okay, here's the actual, and if I scroll down, or if I download the comps or view the pro report, it'll show me info on all of this. So the orange one, that's my particular rental, and then the green, those are actives. I forget what the blues and reds are, but these are the comps. Lower, moderate, and higher. Kind of what the competition's doing. So it's showing, okay, your average is 1094, your median's 11. So actually those two numbers are pretty close, which is nice. That means it's giving you helpful data. Sometimes like the average and the median are way off, which means there aren't that many comps to pull from, which in Canton isn't going to be an issue. If you get out into, Marlington, it's going to be a bigger challenge. And so for me, it's showing, okay, I am on the way low end of this, and I own this property jointly with another person. I've said, when can we raise the rent? As we make those decisions together. So for me, and I pay for Rentometer, I forget what it is. I think it's $10 a month. It's an annual amount. What I do, just as a side note, when I've bought properties that have existing tenants in them, or when I'm considering raising rents on tenants that I already have, I'll run this report and share it with them. And for me, my goal is never to be in the 99th percentile, because I think charging rents that are fair and competitive, but on the slightly conservative side, increases the likelihood that you're going to keep your tenants longer term. And so for me to go to the tenant in this home and say, Brandon, the data, and there's plenty of it, is showing us that we should be charging you a lot more than this. I don't want to go up there because you're a good tenant and I like being in business with you. That being said, I own this home to make money. And so we've decided to raise your rent to 1025 effective this date or whatever. I'm just giving you guys an example, but having data to help support decisions, because I'm not looking to be the evil landlord that people think is just greedy, and at the same time say, hey, I'm not making this up, and if you want to go try to find a 3-bedroom home in this area for $885 elsewhere, like, good luck. You're unlikely to be able to do that. So that's where I go as far as evaluating rents. But as Rich said, like, you kind of have a sense, and don't buy in an area that you're clueless on these sorts of numbers.
And
talk
you'd
with
be
the property
surprised
manager.
at how much people are paying in rent too.
Oh,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you might have never thought that you could,
Oh, right.
you know,
yeah.
rent that for $9.50.
I would have ever.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's such a valuable thing. Like for me, I've owned homes for years now, and it's like, of course, everyone wants to own a home, but like, there's plenty of wonderful people that that's not their goal in life, and you don't need to be greedy about it, but also like that may not be something that they're aiming for. And that's okay. All right, expense analysis. This is where folks get hosed. So I'd love to just for us to build a list together. So when you're thinking about expenses that a property has that you would have as an owner of a property, let's just list some together.
Taxes, property taxes, homeowners insurance.
Taxes, insurance, what
lawn
else?
care.
Yep, yeah, so lawn care,
Yeah, snow.
yep,
Depending on where it's at, the city registration or county registration fees.
yep,
Certain
municipal
utilities.
costs, yep. Yep, and those, you know, it's not rare for some or even all, that's an argument for single family rentals, is that
Yeah.
it's easier to pass all of those utility costs onto that, whereas in multifamily,
Yeah.
oftentimes you're taking on sewer, water, trash, and they're taking on gas and electric. Everything's negotiable, but utilities, what else?
Sorry.
No.
I just think of like building maintenance, you know, like if we're like setting money aside to like put a new roof on in like 3 years, you know, then just allocating funds for that.
Yes, and that's, I put that in point 3 there, that's CapEx, which is short for capital expenditures. So there's 2 types of kind of home care costs. There's the routine stuff. Getting the furnace serviced semi-routinely, electrical issue, you know, like the stuff that pops up or the routine maintenance stuff.
Flushing things down the toilet.
Yes.
Recent.
Oh goodness, I sold a property where I'm like, it's 2 women living there. I'm like, ladies, and like,
What is that a problem?
oh, and it wasn't just the things that you might think. It was like, this is not your trash can. Like,
Yeah. Oh
it was bad.
Like,
Florida,
there's-
Person flushing kitty litter down the toilet.
Oh.
Oh.
They're like, oh, it's just a great way to clean out the litter box.
No.
Train your cat to go in a toilet.
People do that.
There's signs on the stalls like downstairs. I'm like, who needs these signs?
Yeah.
Like, who is this
Yeah.
for? Like,
Katie's standing outside,
Yeah,
like,
like,
who is it?
who is it?
So there's the routine stuff that this broke and I need to call someone in to fix, but as you noted, Katie, there's CapEx. So that's the big ticket items. So like a roof being replaced shouldn't be an I mean, if it's an emergency, that's going to be an insurance cost. You know, oh, we had a branch fall, and you know, you should have insurance in property. That's, but hey, I'm buying a property that has a 17-year-old roof. Like I can see it, and I have 2 properties right now. It's like, okay, in the next couple of years, I shouldn't be surprised when it's time for me to do that. I'll probably do one next year and one the following year. I did one this year. Those are big ticket items, and those those are variable expenses because it's not like that's an every single month thing. But roofs, HVAC systems, like the big ticket items that we warn our buyer clients to be careful about and pay extra attention to inspection. Those are the not deal killers. Those are your profit killers as a landlord. And I say this having waded through a year and a half of a whole lot of CapEx in my world.
Well, that's where I'm curious, is that where, you know, do you make a decision, okay, how much money am I going to lose by replacing this? Is it worth it selling it where it's still got some life in the roof?
Yeah.
As opposed to holding on to it and putting in it, how much time is it gonna take to recoup that money?
Yep.
I get that, that's part of the question I'm asking is, when do you cut the loss or when it still has value instead of putting money into it?
Yeah, it's not rare. You know, the roof may not be actively leaking, but you know, it's just a couple of years. You know, if
Yeah.
it's actively leaking, we're going to disclose. It's going to be something that we're going to have to work through. But if you say, rather not write a check for 15 grand or whatever it would be for this roof, I'd rather pass that opportunity on to the next person. Now, if they're savvy, they're going to see, hey, okay, I need to underwrite this into my deal as well. But
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
that's the thing is, yeah, you could sell it, but a good investor is going to take that into account and your offer is going to reflect.
Yeah,
I feel like you pay
That-
for it on the front.
one way or the
Yeah,
other.
you pay for it either way.
I mean, I'll give you an example. There was a guy, I kicked myself in the butt that I didn't buy this duplex. At the time, I just didn't have the money to put into it, but there was a duplex in Jackson right on Perry Drive, and it's a ranch style duplex, which, great. But it had the original furnaces, original bathrooms, blue toilets, blue everything, whatever. It needed a roof. And so that was one of those things where it was like, yeah, he's only asking 200 for it, but I'm gonna dump 50 in it easily. And he ended up selling it for 175 and somebody came in and did it, but he could have gotten 250, 270 out of that property had he dumped that money into it and then turned around and sold it too. So I don't think it's always just get rid of it. You have to run the numbers, I feel like, because he could have still made good money on that property.
Turn it into a flip. at the
And
same
yeah.
time.
Yeah. So I think your offer is gonna reflect no matter what. I mean, if I'm looking at a property that needs a roof, I'm gonna say, okay, that's 10 grand. I gotta
Yeah.
figure this out.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think you have to look at it
Mhm.
individually. Like
Mhm.
it's not just it's not just a flat answer.
I think the people who do really well long term as as real estate investors, and this is true for both flips and buy and holds, probably truer for flips, is I'm buying properties below market value that need the work, and I can handle the work at a modest cost in order to add that value. Now, obviously, that's that's the flipping game, but that also works if you're buying rentals in areas that will support that. Now, if I buy a $50,000 home in a $50,000 home market and I plow $30,000 into it, like I'm unlikely to see that back. I might need to do that just to keep the house afloat. But that's where it becomes neighborhood dependent, where it can kind of support that growth. One note, I put this actually in the income section. Vacancy is another category where you're going to see different rules of thumb. I basically bank on 1 month's worth of vacancy every year. I think that's a good conservative, obviously I'm signing someone for a 1-year lease, but as I think about saving money from my income, 1 month that's 8% of your income set aside towards vacancy. Now, vacancy, this is where vacancy becomes an expense. Not only am I not generating income, but almost always, and I'm finishing one today and finished one last week. Vacancy creates turn expenses as well, and that can become very costly. So, am I replacing flooring, painting, fixtures? What did the last guy do that is an issue? Repairing some drywall.
Do you take security deposits then?
Yeah,
You do,
Yeah.
okay, so
You bet.
you hold that for when you have to do those things, correct?
So is it three then?
Between tenant.
First month, last month and security deposit?
I just do 1 month security deposit and then their first month's rent.
Okay,
So they're effectively paying for 2 months when they join in. I've had 2 instances in the last year, and I don't manage my own properties. We have a management company, so it's not as tight perhaps as it could be. But person gets behind on payments, we end up having to evict them. That takes forever, and effectively their deposit gets eaten up by basically covering the costs of that last month there.
Yeah.
That's happened twice to me in the last year, which stinks.
Yeah.
And the deposit has to be held in a non-interest bearing trust account, or not trust account, a non-interest bearing account, and you need to make sure you show a record of that being separate. You cannot commingle that in your own accounts or even your operating account. You should have a separate checking account only or savings just for the
Yeah,
tenant.
you get audited. That's
You get
a big
oh,
So
thing.
I was like, most
What if I
savings accounts
spend
have a.
Better be able to find it.
Better be able to find it.
Most savings account bear interest, like, so I mean.
Yeah, so business checking account is what I have or you have to tell the bank what you're doing and then they'll make sure there's no interest. But yeah, you can't earn interest on somebody else's money unless you give it back to them after you've earned the interest. So,
Okay, so yeah,
yeah.
no point.
And if you collect, don't quote me on this, but I've heard if you collect more than the monthly rent for the deposit, you have to pay them interest on the extra amount. That doesn't,
Oh, I
that's
didn't know.
not on commercial, but that is on
Residential.
residential. Don't quote me on that, and I only know that because I did enough investigating that I was trying to get us elevate. We had paid an absorbent amount, and I was like, hey, you want to give us some interest on that extra money we gave you guys? And he's like, yeah, that's only on residential.
Okay.
So I didn't look up all the details, but I will just say, keep that in mind. You might want to investigate for yourselves, but
Or like,
Interesting.
what would like my accountant be able to like answer that? I
I
mean,
would think so. I
Yeah.
mean, if they're versed in rental properties, but
Yeah.
I think like whoever Mark's using for property management would probably be able to
They're
answer
tracking
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got you.
It's
Okay.
very, very easy.
Gotcha.
That's part of the perks. I'm not selling property management either, but makes my life easier in some ways, harder in others. All right.
Don't we have a property management in-house?
No longer.
No, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pain in the butt, just candidly. And from a brokerage standpoint, it doesn't make that much money. So it was like.
But I will say
Shervinic.
Shervinic,
Yeah.
Shervinic, they have, what's his name?
Jim
Scott.
Shepherd.
Yeah, Jim Shepherd. And I will tell you, I've met with him. If I were going to go with a property manager, I know there's other ones, but he was very impressive. He does everything by the book. He knows what he's doing. He's got a great crew.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for somebody to do property management and you want to keep it in-house somehow, he's great.
Yeah.
So
That's helpful. All right, performance metrics. This is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of folks. And at this point, I will share this with you guys. So you probably heard, and I will see if I can pull this up. I'm going to share this with you as well, Amy. Stop share. All right, we're looking at kind of key metrics and formulas. So we've moved down to number 5 here. So just a couple I think potential real estate investors get overwhelmed often when people throw around NOI and cap rate and cash on cash and IRR. There's lots of acronyms. There's more acronyms in real estate investing than there are with KW. I'm just saying something. That being said, those acronyms are helpful to identify not just like what can it rent monthly, but how does this perform relative to if I were just to invest in the stock market or to just have it sitting in a money market account, etc. So that's what it's for. Like I think intuitively we can talk about the benefits of owning rental real estate. It creates income, there's tax benefits through depreciation, you're building equity, it appreciates as well, and you're building equity through debt pay down if you're not paying cash. It appreciates, creating value for you, and then there's leverage, which means you can buy more with less because of mortgages. So that's all true. That being said, is this a good investment? Is defined by the key metrics. So just a couple of key terms. So cap rate, that's the second one here. Really, that's fancy language for if I was paying cash for this, what would it return? If I paid $100,000 cash for a $100,000 property, what actual return, once we factor in all of the expenses, would it create? That's useful because if I can bank on, if you're talking with a financial advisor, they'll say, hey, let's assume 8% annualized return if you're buying a mutual fund in the stock market. Am I doing at least that well? Now, cap rate is a function of how much cash is it creating on an annualized basis. And we've already talked about how cap rate doesn't factor in the appreciation of the growth of the property. So if something is a 5 cap, which means it's earning 5% on its money, you may not be excited about that, but if it's gaining 5% in value every year, that's going to turn into a really fantastic opportunity. So a few key metrics and formulas. So NOI, net operating income, is EGI, which is expected gross income minus operating expenses. So operating expenses are all of the things that we've just mentioned: taxes, utilities, lawn care, you're building in your maintenance assumptions, you're building in your vacancy assumptions there. What you're not factoring in is debt service. So all too often people are evaluating a property basically saying, rents for $1,000 and my mortgage is only $750, so I'm making $250 a month, right? Until you need to do anything with the
Right.
property. Yeah. So many people simplify it to that. It's like, well, what happens when you have that utility bill? You know, like we need to factor the whole thing. So really, your NOI, your net operating income, is money coming in minus those expenses. We're not even factoring in debt. You know, debt is set aside because the cap rate does not factor in leverage, which obviously leverage is such a huge value. So then once we have that number, and if we're using really round numbers, so let's say a property rents for $1,000 a month, that's $1,200 or $12,000 a year. Let's say that the NOI, the operating expenses are $300 a month. So 1,000 minus 300, that's $700 a month in NOI. We're then dividing that. Say we bought the property for $100,000. We're dividing that $700 a month. Actually, so it's an annualized number. So 700 times 12 is $8,400 a year into the $100,000 purchase price. So that would be an 8.4% cap rate.
Gotcha.
I know I went kind of fast there, but does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's purchase price divided by the monthly is what you're saying.
Purchase price divided by the annual
Oh, and
net operating income. Which that, okay, it's an 8.4 cap. That's not bad, depending on what your debt service is. If if you were just paying cash for that property and earning 8.4%,
Right.
that's cool.
What is kind of like the sweet spot? Just, I know it's all individual, but like, what are you willing to say no to? Like, if it's below X amount, I'm not voting for it.
My number is 10%. If I'm not making 10% on my money, it doesn't feel worth it to me.
Yeah.
And that's not all that hard to accomplish in.
I would say that's probably the
In
rule
this
for
area.
most
Yeah.
investors is the 10%. You don't want to go below the 10%.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who do. I mean,
Yeah.
Melena's crushing that with her $950 on her initial purchase price. We could run the cap numbers on that, and that's probably like 20%. But for me, if I'm not in double digits, I'm not excited about it. Because we know that the stock market, and
Right.
it's not apples to apples, like a rental property creates monthly income and over time wealth, whereas the stock market, like, it just grows, and yes, it can pay you dividends periodically, but
But you also don't have monthly expenses with the market. You do the
yeah,
rent.
you're not having to fix the
Yeah.
furnace or
Yeah.
deal with fuzzy tenants or whatever. It's nice. That's nice sometimes. So that's cap rate is where a lot of people really do their kind of high level analysis. The next one's cash flow. So cash flow equals NOI minus debt service. So this is what a lot of people look at. Okay, what am I bringing in minus my expenses minus my debt service? So in that case, if I'm renting a home for $1,000 a month, I have $300 a month in expenses, and my mortgage is $500 a month, then my cash flow is $200 a month. I'll take that. That's real money. And that's where I think when we think through rules of thumb, and we can talk about those in a few minutes. Andy Alamini, he's got a bunch of rental properties. He was basically sharing, this is a few years ago, so his number may have changed. If he wasn't making at least $300 per door per month, he wasn't looking at it. And he's more of a cash flow style investor, multifamily, et cetera. And multifamily is a little bit more of the cash flow game. For me, if I'm making at least $200 a month, I'm good with that because I'm more interested in the growth than I am in the monthly cash flow.
But when you look at that too, it's like, how long does it take you? Okay, $200 a month profit, but you put 40 grand down on the property. I mean, you're not getting that money back.
For a long
It's
time.
over time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. That's so important. And that's where, so the next one, cash on cash return, that's what you're actually looking, hey, what am I putting in and what am I getting back on an annualized basis? And this is a great one because if I'm able to negotiate where let's say I'm negotiating a seller finance deal where I'm only putting 10 grand in and it's creating $400 a month in cash flow, which is $4,800 a year. Like basically I'm getting my money back within 2 years. That's fantastic. That's very rare. Whereas if I'm putting twice as that much down or 4 times that as much down, my cash on cash return changes. So cash on cash is a good one to see what's my actual return on the money that I'm making. Won't bother with debt service coverage ratio, etc. One other thing, and then we can analyze a property. I wrote over here on my notes ROE. So we talk about ROI a lot, and ROI is basically the same as cash on cash. What am I getting back for what I put into it? Return on investment. I invested some money. What return am I getting on that? ROE is how I make decisions about how long I want to hold a property, to your question, Mike. That stands for return on equity. So maybe I put 25 grand into a property to buy it a few years ago, but through the growth of that property and through the pay down of my mortgage, I have 100 grand in equity on the property. So what my ROI might be fine. Hey, I'm making a few $100s a month on this initial investment. I still feel good about that. But then when I look at in reality, I've got $100,000 in equity here that I'm still only earning that amount on. Suddenly it becomes less exciting. And unless you're underwater, your ROE is always going to be lower than your ROI. That makes sense, just because the property and your equity is growing over time through debt pay down and through appreciation. But that's where it becomes a question. And I've sold a property this May, and I'm going to be selling, or April, and I'll be selling another one soon. Basically because that number is way skewed. I've got another home that it's like $150 a month in cash flow, and I have about 70 grand in equity in it. It's like, okay, run some quick numbers. How many years will it take for me to recoup the 70 grand? Kind of to what we were saying. And that's, in my mind, I can reposition that money better elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how I think about things. Let's talk about risk sensitivity, and then let's look at a real property. So risk sensitivity is basically stress testing of the situation when you're looking at it. What if rents drop? Which we haven't had that happen in a while, but it does happen sometimes. What if vacancy rates rise? Because piece of legislation passed in the neighborhood that makes it less desirable, or because we have an office in Mansfield where there were some major manufacturers that are no longer there anymore, and so the population changed, the who wanted to live in certain neighborhoods changed, and therefore that impact both vacancy and rent rates. Is there, as we discussed, is there a major repair that might hit? That roof looks okay, but what if it isn't actually as okay as I think it is? It's so important to think through those scenarios because it's really easy to get really optimistic. Oh yeah, $1,000. And we build it on our spreadsheet and we get so excited until one of those bad things happen. And I'll tell you, those bad things happen. One other aspect of risk check, and Katie, you kind of mentioned this earlier, is exit strategy. Or what would my plan be with the strategy? If I needed to sell this property, how would I, is it easily sold? If I needed to, could I do a short-term rental? A lot of municipalities won't allow that, but some will. And I will say, if you're like all in on the short-term rental mindset, I feel like everyone like has it in their mind, I want to have an Airbnb. Rich knows better than I do. Like, you need to make sure you have a good exit strategy with that, because municipalities are not making that any easier anymore. And inventory is glutted in a lot of areas. I'm going to St. Louis next month. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be there in 4 weeks. I need to figure something out. And in the like few blocks that we were looking, there were like 20 places available. A few years ago, there might have been 4 places available.
Yeah.
But like, if you've had the idea, everyone else has had the idea, it's harder to make it work. It can work. But you want to make sure that if you're looking at a place as a short-term rental, that it'll also work in some other way, whether it's a medium-term, long-term, or resale. Katie, you made the comment that Marcy likes single families because it's easier to sell. That was my thesis. I think duplexes are also really easy to sell. I think once you get into the bigger, hairier stuff,
Yeah.
that narrows the pool. But I think like small time real estate investing has become so popular that, as Rich said, like I'm amazed at what some of these duplexes go for.
Okay.
My personal policy, and this is just a personal thing, is when I'm selling a single family, I want it to be vacant, which there's some risk associated with it, just because I want a single family home to be approachable by someone who actually wants to live there, not just own it as a rental, because
Right.
they'll pay more than an
Right.
investor would. Whereas with a duplex, I don't care quite as much about that.
And at least with a duplex, you are getting some income in, usually if another side is vacant.
Yes.
Whereas on your single family,
All I
you're
have-
not getting any.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you have multiple, if you have 5 single family homes, effectively you have like a multi, it's like, oh, one moves out, view it on the whole as opposed to I can't make that bill. It's like, oh, can we pay our bills?
Yeah.
Because I always have some vacancies. You guys are like, Mark, you need to get your crap together.
People for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You guys want to look at a real property?
I would.
Do you mind if I give you one?
Yeah, please.
So, cause I just.
Is it on the MLS?
No, I
Okay.
just bought it. I bought it
Ooh.
at auction.com and I'm thinking I'm gonna flip it, but I don't
Okay.
know. Let's see what it would work out at.
Big money, big money. All right, so has it closed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't on the MLS though, cause it was auction.com, but
I should be able to find
it
it on
should be,
RPR at least.
yeah, 1938 Connecticut Avenue Southeast. Yep.
Okay. Congratulations, Rich. If the RVM is accurate, you bought it with some meat on the bone.
I did buy Wisconsin though, but I would actually say that RVM is probably low.
Okay.
Just a smidge. I mean,
Okay.
I'm thinking, well, yeah, I guess I said 130, 140, somewhere in there. Depends on-
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. You said you bought auction.com?
Mhm. 86 was the total with their fee and the,
Closing cost?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you go cash or did you finance it?
I did cash,
Okay.
but that's the question is if I keep it, I'm gonna have to refinance it so I can get my cash back.
Right.
Or I'm just gonna flip it and it really doesn't need much. The windows, the roof, the furnace, all of it's good. So it's really just paint, some freshening up and gravel in the driveway and sell it. So
So big ticket items are accounted for.
Yeah.
What would you estimate if you were to refresh it to sell?
I do think it's probably like around the 135, 140 mark.
Sorry, what do you think it would cost to for the refresh? How much would you put?
I'm-
5 grand?
I'm
10
gonna
grand?
say max probably 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your total outlay would be 96 then.
That's right.
That's great. So we're gonna evaluate this both as a flip and as a buy and hold.
Okay.
So do you think it's worth 130 conservatively?
Yeah, let's say conservative 130. Because there is no garage. It's small, but I mean, you can't find a habitable house for under 150
Yeah.
in Massillon. So it's like,
It's rough. Yeah. It's
I mean,
hard.
this is directly across from Giant Eagle on Lincoln Way. It's not even like.
Are you
it's
more
not-
tempted to flip or to hold when you bought it?
My goal was to flip it just
Okay.
because I thought I want to get my cash back, but I can do that by a cash out refi too.
Mhm.
So.
Yep.
And I know that I could take out more than what I paid for it, so I would actually get more money to do something else with it. But I'm also a conservative, like. It's interesting, this conversation, and I guess we learn more about each other as we share. This isn't like a, oh, look at me thing. This is, I'm just as inexperienced as
learning.
the rest of
We're
you.
all learning, yeah.
I have a duplex over on Cottage Place that's close to where you're talking about in Arnold. I only owe 76 on it. I paid 110 for it. The rental income on it is $1,600 a month. And I am at that point where I'm like, I don't know if I should sell it or not, because there's a lot of money there to be had, but I'm also making about $700 a month in income.
And that's where it goes back to what your long-term goals are. Like, am I looking to build up my cash? I'm of the mind you always want you'll always want to have liquid money that you can access, but you also want your money working for you. And so should you sell it, what's that doing? Obviously, it'll be more liquid than it would be in a house.
But I think to me, liquid money is like based on what I owe on it, what I could sell it for. If I had to sell it, like to Katie's point, I could sell that
Get paid within
And get-
60.
right
Yeah.
and be done. So like that to me seems more like a savings account. Like even if I don't have the $100,000 in my checking account, I have it
there.
Yeah,
sitting
it's
there
Yeah,
if I needed to sell it. So like that's how I look at it.
I'd hold it.
Right. And I mean that's what I've been thinking that I'm gonna do. But also I had the same question Mike did. Like at what point do you think about selling these things?
Mhm.
And I feel like when you have something that's cash flowing really well, why would you sell it? Because that is not only is the property value going up, but you're making money
Yeah.
every month.
Yeah.
So I just feel like there are some investors that would be like, hey, I'm gonna remortgage that, take out money, and I'm gonna go buy something else. I am more conservative and I would say risk adverse. I don't like owing a bunch on these properties
Yeah.
because if I did need to sell them, that is my savings account if something happened to something. So that's why I'm like, but I know that there are investors would be like, I'm refinancing that thing right now.
Yeah,
And I'm
recycling the money.
yeah, and I'm gonna go buy something else. And it's like, that's great, but then now I go from making $700 a month on this property to $200 a month.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah, and it depends on what you do with the money that you're cycling back out. Because you're right. That's how a lot of people get started is the Burr method: buy, rehab, rent, refinance.
That's my only choice right now because I don't have any
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but you started.
down
I mean,
payment.
but you started. I mean, a house that's $35,000, you are making
Should
money.
be about 100 now. So right now I'm trying to get a home equity on it so I can get some cash as a down payment
Yep.
to get a loan. But
And because your rents are at $950 now, if you were renting for $650, which would still be good relative to that initial purchase, that wouldn't work on the refi, or on the HELOC. But because you're at $950, there will still be more. Obviously, it'll compress, it'll reduce your income on that. But if you're then going and getting something that does even better, and those are growing in value, it can.
That's
that was
No.
That's
gonna
our
be
plan as well, is like we're increasing our HELOC on our property to be able to. Hopefully just have like a cash offer, that where we could just write the check and.
That's how a lot of people
think
get
Nick
started.
is-
Mhm.
I mean, what's the matter?
the team's having a meeting here.
Oh, are they?
Oh,
We were supposed to be ready with our
Oh,
laptops
okay,
at 10
okay.
till whatever.
Okay.
But I feel like we could talk so much more about this.
Yeah.
Hope there's
is the
part
training room
two.
available? They could just hop in the training room.
I'll have to get my kids out of there. But yeah. Oh, the
Training
training
one.
room. I'm sorry. I thought you were, yeah.
They
If
need a
you,
lot of
if you,
space.
I was like, if you wanna pop out and if the training room's available, send them in there, if that's okay. Or we
Have to
can
miss the rest.
Is this,
disband
is this a 2-bed?
three,
3.
3-bed, 1 bath.
I'm running this at 1,000 because
Okay.
what I just did is I took 80% of 130. So if you were to pull money out, most lenders will give you 80%
Yeah.
loan to value. Some will do better than that. I just did one that was 90% loan to value. That would put your monthly payment, just taxes and or PI 853. So if you rented $1,000 a month, you're at least like
Ish covering, yeah.
ish covering, yeah. And let's just see what it says. So it's saying your median's 1,100, average is 1,200.
That's pretty good.
So you like, if you were to do that, to your point, you're probably treading water. Like it's a single family, so you could pass all utilities onto them. You can pass lawn and snow. That's the other thing that duplexes. Do I do this? Do they do that? Do I ask one of them to do that? That can become a thing. But I think that could work if growing your portfolio is the goal. But turning a quick 50,
Yeah.
or just renting it as is for 1,100 with
yeah.
pulling your money out.
Yeah, because it needs paint on the inside. There's really not
You
much
gotta-
it
you gotta
needs, so
a
it was a good
fantastic
deal.
deal.
Yeah.
Have you decided to auction that?
Well, the tenant is still in there and it was owned by them. They're still stuck in there. So now I'm gonna have to go through the eviction process.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was an auction.com. So auction.com, you're buying it as is, where is, all that fun stuff with the people that are living in it. But at the end of the day, I thought for $86,000, you can't go wrong with that. And
Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
Thanks for being here.
so,
We do this every month if you wanna join.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so it just happened to work out. My son lives across the street and he was like, you know, that house is in foreclosure. I was like, oh, let me look it up. And then it was on, but that's the thing, it wasn't on the MLS. It was on auction.com. And had he not told me that it was on there, I would have never looked. So I think that's the other thing I would say too is until I'm at my spot in life where I am now, I don't know that I would have bought a house with somebody living in it because you can't get in it and see it and you could really hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But at this point, I knew my son lived across the street. He knows those people are living there. The utilities are on, like everything's going. So there couldn't be that much wrong with it, especially when it just sold for 85,000 3 years ago when he bought it.
And because you were paying cash for it, you
Yeah.
didn't need to like, it wasn't a 3 alarm fire, like they need to get out yesterday, like, and obviously I wanna make money, not have it sit, but you're not, your
not
expenses
pressed.
are far lower because of that choice.
But I did just what you're saying, like I have an equity line on the commercial buildings I own. So yes, I hypothetically paid cash for it, but it's really on my equity line on those buildings and I will refinance it and pay it back. So I am out zero actual cash at the
And you
moment.
picked up the property,
Right.
a hard asset that
Yeah.
will go up over time.
So
Great job. And I just changed my loan calculator, which there's all kinds of free loan apps. You guys, I'm sure, use these with your clients. I had it on a 20-year
Mhm.
AM schedule, which is what I have a lot of our properties
that's
on.
what mine are, yeah.
Okay, if you change it to 30, that drops your payment by a little over $100 a month if you were looking to refi it.
I've been sticking with the 20-year just because, yes, it's more expensive and I'm not making as much money per month. However, in the long term, at 42, even if I keep acquiring properties, like if my house is paid for in less than 20 years, the rentals are paid for in less than 20 years, that's a cash that I'm not looking at having, like, great, I hope I get Social Security someday, right?
Yeah.
But I'm
Not
not
banking
looking
on
at, I'm not banking on it.
Not counting on
Yeah,
that.
so like as a realtor, my retirement are these
Mhm.
properties. But I know that there are people much more aggressive, I don't know if you guys know who Tim Beck is. He was a manager of color for years and he's still a realtor, but he probably has 110 doors. And back in the foreclosure days of like the 8, 9, 10, whatever, he was buying them hand over fist by pulling out equity in properties. And he said, Rich, there were times I was completely maxed out. I would, if I had hair, lose it all at that point, because then that would just give me hives and I'd be, but he did it, and he was able to make it.
Stem the tide, and now he's
And
obviously
now
looking-
he's
looking
real pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, but that's just not,
Well, I love that because you're operating with like, at the end of the day, my goal is not to live off my rentals right now. My
Right.
goal is to build an engine that when I'm at a place where I want to slow down a bit more, it's doing the real work.
right,
That's
Um,
my,
yeah.
yeah, because my husband has jointly, he's like, well, this is our retirement. And I'm like, I get that, but like he has a really good retirement. And I'm like, I need to do something too. Like I need to contribute something to this too. So like that's how I'm looking at this, as this is gonna be the portfolio that we build here over the next, I don't know, 5 to 7 years is gonna be my, our retirement, but what I'm contributing to our retirement, so it's not just him. Yeah.
Do you have retirement from your previous positions?
Yeah, I got a decent one. I haven't put into it for a while and it's grown 50 grand over the last 3 years,
That's
so
great.
yeah. So I mean, even just letting it sit the way it is right now, not putting anything into it, that alone should be close to about $1 million by the time I retire. But I don't want to bank on that because you never know what's gonna happen. And then Tara's got a small one from some of her previous positions, and we were talking to the last meeting. Unfortunately, we're coming into some money simply because of her mom passing. So she has some retirement, and then we're gonna get money from sale of our house. So I mean, there's a cushion, but at the same time, I want to be able to grow more and actually have an income coming off of it too. So
I saw an interesting post, I forget if it was yesterday or this morning, a real estate investor reflecting on AI, and it was kind of it's exciting, but also, if you're looking to just like chill and not get better at your work, like you're gonna be in trouble as AI gains
Lindsay
steam.
Colton.
What's that?
Lindsay Colton.
This is Danny Nicolino shared
Okay.
this one that I saw, but he was basically saying, like work to sharpen your skills in your craft, whatever it is, but B, buy hard assets that go up over time
Yeah.
and that create, because that's never going out of style.
Right.
And I thought that was a really interesting point.
We were actually looking at the beginning of the year when we were working on things for the wealth committee, like putting together like, our just everything, like everything that we own and, looking at everything and where our money actually is. And I'm like, we have so many depreciating assets. We have boats, we have jet skis, we have ATV. And like, I'm like, these are all depreciating
Yeah.
like assets. And I'm like, these aren't doing, I mean, yeah, they're
You can't
fine.
even say the word asset in there because none of
They're-
I hate to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, but I
Coming from a
mean,
guy with a boat.
yeah, right. I was like,
It's a whole
but
nother.
trust me, it's a ton of fun. But I'll tell you what, our one jet ski so far this summer sank twice. So
Oh. Well, I love
Yeah.
the 20-year stress test, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't buy things that are fun, but like owning a home 20 years from now, like say this Maslin home you decide to keep for 20 years, like I don't know if it'll be worth 140 or 200, but it's not going to be worth 50.
Right.
But if you think about a jet ski 20 years from now, it's like
It's
someone
not-
just take this out of my
Right.
yeah,
take this out of my
I know,
garage.
I know.
Which is like again, have fun with it, but don't build your future based
Oh,
on
well, right. But it was just stunning. Like whenever we actually put pen to paper, we were looking at it, and I was like, oh shit. So
Yeah.
it was like,
I think
okay,
that's why it's interesting. I think every one of our agents should do the wealth building class that KW offers,
Yeah,
just
it's so
because
good.
even invite your friends and family, like it's that good. My parents never talked about real estate, retirement. Both my dad and my mom lived off of Social Security. Man, my dad lives off Social Security now. My grandparents lived off Social Security. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even a conversation that we ever had. And
Yeah.
it's like when you see that happening, it is never too late to start doing something.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to live like that when you get to that point. I mean, I just helped sellers. I had to spend $7,000 of my own money to get their air conditioning replaced, their furnace, all these things replaced, hot water tank. And if I would have done that, they couldn't have sold their house.
Mhm.
And they had zero money. And I look at those people, and though I feel bad for them, it's like, wow, thank God I'm in
yeah.
a much better position. And thank God I am where I am.
She does the same thing. Like she'll let go and she just I think recently paid for like the majority of a roof, like on a garage, like on a
Well,
detached.
we're getting
garage.
paid back at closing.
Yeah, I mean, but
Maybe.
yeah, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just like I'm in the same boat when I look at people who are like much older, like in their, like the age that I would think, okay, like they're getting ready to retire. And they're like, we're not in any kind of a position to be able to retire, or yeah, we're gonna retire from this, but then we're gonna go and we're gonna get a part-time job doing this. And I'm like, when I retire, I want to retire.
Yeah.
So
I might choose to do things because I want to. not
yeah,
because I have
right.
to.
Not because I have to.
It's amazing, like time, and assets plus time
Mm.
creates like it removes uncertainty. And I was talking, you guys know Jason LaCourte, he's out grinding in the bullpen. I always forget how young he is because he's doing investing and he's buying some stuff and he's obviously selling houses. But like, remind me how old you are, 29? He's like, I'm 24. And it's like when you look at that, it's like
Doesn't
if you
make you feel
if
awful.
you keep doing this, like there's no question that you're gonna be worth several million
know.
dollars. Just add a couple
Yeah.
decades to this, and not that that's necessarily his goal, but when you buy assets and give it time, like that's just what happens. So whether you're 62, 52, or 24,
And do it now while you can. That's the thing.
Well, and I feel like we're entering into a time right now where there's gonna be a lot of opportunities.
I agree.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
That's how it was in, like I said, 08, 09. I didn't have any money back then, but that would have been a great time. And you're right, we're not going into as bad of a time, but there are gonna be a lot of opportunities.
To find value and to
And if you can pull money or use money from I mean, you have to start somewhere. And even though it feels like you're like, oh gosh, I'm never gonna get anywhere, you will.
yeah,